Winter is upon us. We have lost many of our people. In this hunt, we must not fail.
It's coming from the audience.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Aish Banquet.
Hey man, this is not like really dangerous, right?
No dangerous. A little bit.
Please, whatever you do, don't say you're Jewish.
Come on, let's do that.
The brat, beat on the brat with the baseball.
You know,
bat.
I'm Jewish.
Oh yeah, oh
Awkward.
Please rise for a special presentation of the American National Anthem, presented by Kiev Morales.
Welcome, Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Jewish Federations of North America, Richard Sandler.
His leadership over the years with Federation, Valley Beth Shalom, the Jewish Educator Awards, the Milken Archive of Jewish Music, is well known.
You're a true servant of the Jewish people. It comes from the heart because it comes from your heart.
What may be less familiar is Richard's more than 2 decades of support and personal involvement with Aish.
Please welcome the past chair of the Jewish Federation of North America, the past chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, and the executive vice president of the Milken Family Foundation, Mr. Richard Sandler.
It is a pleasure to be here. It's always a pleasure to be at the annual Aish LA dinner. You know you're going to get good sushi, plenty of food. You know you're going to be inspired. And you know you will be out of here before 9 o'clock. But I'm here tonight for another reason. I'm here because Aish LA addresses what I consider to be the 3 most important questions that the Jewish community today has to address. Why does Judaism matter? Why does how we treat one another matter? And why does Israel matter? Why does Judaism matter? We all know we're a very small people, less than 0.2% of the world's population, less than 2% of the population here in the United States. We have many adversaries, we have many enemies, and we have throughout history. Yet we are here. We have survived against incredible odds. And at the same time, we have made a difference in this world. a positive difference in this world exponentially greater than our small number. And how could this be? How could this happen? It's because of our tradition, a tradition rooted in a Torah, which has guided us these thousands of years. The one constant in our history has been that Torah. The Torah is about who we are, where we come from, and what is expected of each of us. My friend Rabbi David Wolpe said at a Federation event a little over a year ago, and I quote, "We are strangers and immigrants to our own tradition. We don't know Torah, our Talmud, or the poetry and writing that makes our people our people. Our tradition still has something to give the world, but first we have to know what it is." Aish HaTorah, Aish LA, connects us to that tradition. It teaches us the values of that Torah. You could see right here the line that is here. It's on the website. It's throughout Aish. It is the Aish motto, connecting all Jews to the power of Judaism and to each other. To each other. Brings me to my second question. Why does it matter how we treat each other? We live in an incredible time. Almost 90% of all the Jews on this planet live in either Israel or the United States, two free democratic countries where we are free to practice and study our tradition. After 2,000 years since the destruction of the Second Temple, we finally again have a homeland, Israel. And in the United States, we enjoy unprecedented influence, affluence, and power. We need to take advantage of this remarkable time in history, no matter whether we're Orthodox, conservative, Reform, or secular. No matter what political positions we may hold or who we might vote for, we have to end the divisiveness that exists between our people. And Aish LA is all about inclusiveness and respect for all Jews. My Aish brings Jews together to learn about themselves and their tradition based on what they share in common, regardless of the synagogue they belong to or don't belong to, and regardless of who they voted for in the last election. And my Aish takes young Jews, and those of us that used to be young Jews, to Israel to experience the miracle of the Jewish homeland, which brings me to the third question. Why does Israel matter? Let's never forget that the reason we do feel so comfortable today in the United States is because there is a Jewish state, a strong and secure Jewish state. It's because of that, because of this country, that Israel has made a difference in our lives. Israel's not perfect, far from it, but Israel provides a homeland to the Jewish people. It has a seat at the world table, and it connects us to Torah and to our tradition. And Aish connects us to Israel through very informative and meaningful trips and through the Aish Center in Jerusalem. So I'm here tonight because Aish helps me find answers to those three questions. And if you want to hear my fourth question, you'll have to come to Seder this Friday night. Enjoy your evening.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in the Pacific Northwest, the American home of the BDS movement. I want to see if these guys are willing to take it to the next level. We're raising money for American Friends for Hamas. I work for American Friends for Hamas.
Okay.
We're not your father's terrorist organization. We've kind of evolved beyond that. We want to fund operations against Israel. And the type of attacks we're talking about are cafes and schools and soft targets, hospitals, and destroy cafes, shopping malls and schools, and the suicide bombers all we've got. We're looking to wipe Israel off the map, to destroy Israel.
I like the sound of what you're doing. It sounds like the great thing to do. Totally against the Israeli genocide.
If you feel like donating to help the cause, to fight back, and that'd be great.
For sure, well, definitely.
And maybe consider making a donation.
Probably like $15.
$15? Yeah. No, that'd be great.
I don't know, maybe like 10, 20 bucks.
15 to 20. $5 or $10.
Maybe like $10.
$5. $10. $10. $5 or $10.
$10. Let's say $27.
Hamas thanks you. I thank you.
Thank you.
Peace and love. You believe peace is important, right?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
But to get peace, you first got to destroy some stuff, you know? See you, man.
Please welcome the Executive Director of Aish Los Angeles, Rabbi Aryeh Markman.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I'd like to thank the Almighty for bringing us all together, and I'd like to thank my beautiful wife for everything she does for me, which is everything. Thank you, Rachel. So why Aish? Why Aish LA? Why do we need Aish LA? Aish LA was created to connect all Jews to the power of Judaism and to each other. But what does that really mean? Where does that connection take us? Why is it so important? I'd like to suggest there are two vital components that every organization has to have in order to exist and to prosper. One is they need a plan. They need a manual to operate. And number two is they need unity. And every group has to have unity. And one without the other is not going to take that organization or that people or that world to where they want it to go. Take, for example, penguins. Now, this idea was given to me by Aish LA's COO, Rabbi Azra Aharon, who's done everything tonight single-handedly. He did this entire banquet, soup to nuts, all by himself, from invitation to the dessert bar. Thank you, Oz. Now, when penguins are in the Antarctic, they can experience hurricane-force ice storms. And the only way they're going to survive is they huddle together in these gigantic mosh pits. Alone, a penguin could not survive. Even 50 penguins could not survive. But 100 could survive together. But it's just not getting together that does it for them. What they have to do is they have this sophisticated rotation system in which the most outer penguins get to come into the middle and the inner penguins go outside, and they do this in a procession. And given that the penguins can overheat, they open areas of space for the penguins to cool off on the inside. It's amazing. Otherwise, it would be a penguin mob that would overheat and freeze at the same time. And it doesn't matter how many penguins, what kind of penguins are involved. Fat penguins, skinny penguins, tall penguins, short penguins, old penguins, new penguins, Pittsburgh penguins. All the bodies are needed, and they must all participate or certain death awaits the outliers. And so, too, is it with the Jewish people. We need everybody. We need Ashkenazi and Sephardic and Persian and Torah-centric and otherwise, rich, poor, hipster, chassid, liberal, conservative, progressive, libertarian, Yankee fan, Boston fan. I'm a Chicago fan. Hamas doesn't care when they send their missiles. They don't care what color you are. They don't care what shul you go to. They don't care your political leanings. All they want when they fire the rockets is to land on a Jewish house. Any house will do. And like the penguins, we have to unite. We have to unite to defend ourselves. You see, the brutal winds of anti-Semitism and hatred blow all the time. Sometimes they blow hard, sometimes they don't blow as hard. But they do. They blow all the time. And we need the unity. But unity is not enough. We need to hold it together, not in chaos, not in a swarm, but with a plan. And that plan, we have a blueprint for living, and that has withstood the test of time, and that is our divine Torah. And here's a factoid for your Pesach table. The Torah was given to us 3,331 years ago, and has been the one consistent that has helped us in the endless waves of anti-Semitism. And the Torah is the reason we exist. And we don't just exist. Jews thrive. And with the Torah, no matter what the circumstances are, we find ourselves that we have the secret sauce for success. And it's our reason for being, the Holy Torah. And that's what Aish LA is all about. With the Torah as our blueprint, we're able to do amazing, innovative, crazy, creative programming, new, cutting edge. And simultaneously, we generate new organizations, and new shuls. It just comes flying out of us. We teach that to be effectual, you really want to accomplish, you got to look into the Torah. It builds the better self. It builds our greater community. Now, in 38 years of Aish LA's existence, we've attracted 60,000 individual students. Most of them are not here tonight. 1,000 have met and married, and we've enrolled 1,000 children in day school. And thanks to Dick and Beverly Horowitz, we've sent We've sent 5,000 to go study in Jerusalem. I want to get in their biography that's done by Art Scrolls. Our programs are built on social connection and personal growth. And we're successful. Why? Because people want to live significant lives, lives that matter, lives that have purpose, lives that have meaning. And that's what connection means. We all need connection. And that is why Aish LA's goal, Aish LA's mission, is to connect all Jews to the power of Judaism and to each other. Now let's see what that action looks like. We have 3 short videos that we made, and the first is on Aish Lit. Our newest program. It's run by our very special power couple, Rabbi and Rebbitzin Jack and Shira Malul. The Maluls have recruited, we recruited them a year and a half ago. We recruited them from the University of Oregon, where they were out there for 4 years building one of the most successful campus programs in North America. Now they attract that self-same demographic, now graduated from college, through social media, and they're building a new community where one did not exist. Now remember, when students leave campus, there goes the social structure. And also, they're looking for new friends and a like-minded community. And the vastness of Los Angeles. That's a tough order. And by connecting with the Maluls, they gain new relationships and networking opportunities and a nurturing and welcoming atmosphere at the Maluls' home. Let's take a look.
The Aish Lit mission is to introduce the deeper meaning and relevance of Judaism to 21st century Jewish young professionals.
They provide the highest quality educational and social opportunities that are both comfortable and welcoming.
The goal is to bring us together as a community to connect and network and create lifelong friendships. And it's run by Rabbi Jack and Rebbitzin Shira Malul.
Using private and public events, classes, one-on-one meetings, and worldwide trips that are all Jewish-based and focused, generating a networked platform and new relations for young professionals in Los Angeles.
For a lot of us here in LA, this is our first time in the real world and really being away from home.
I moved to Los Angeles knowing no one. I had no friends out here, no family, no connections.
So Rabbi Jack and Shira really provided a home, a family, a community for us to all come together.
I love that I can walk in, whether it's for Shabbat or a Torah class or Taco Tuesday. Every week I see new faces as well as familiar ones.
Rabbi Jack and Shira do an incredible job of connecting students on college campuses.
And getting people involved who may not have had any involvement in the Jewish community or even had any interest in exploring it.
I'm there to learn, I'm there to connect, and Rabbi Jack and Shira have created such a deep and meaningful community among us. And I feel they can relate because they're young just like us.
Amazingly, Rabbi Jack and Shira built this program from scratch in just over a year.
It's one thing for me to sit here and tell you about all this, but why don't you go check Aish Lit out for yourself?
Aishlit is where you'll meet your best friend, find a community you can rely on, and it'll have a profound impact on your life.
We're all in similar chapters of life. We have similar goals and we can be there to support each other. Aishlit brings people from all over the world together in one home, one family, one community.
All right, Aishlit. I could just spend Purim with the Maluls. We had a great time. I think we had a great time. I don't remember too much. In 2011, Aish launched the Jewish Women's Initiative, led by Rebbitzins Chana Heller and Sharon Shanker. It's a program inspired by Rebbitzin Lori Platnick, founder of the JWRP. And then Aish LA created the Jewish Men's Initiative, run by Rabbis Azriel Aharon and Shlomo Seidenfeld. Az has got a lot of hats here. The mission of the JWI and the JMI is to bring traditional Torah Judaism into the home. And in just 8 short years, we've exponentially exploded. We now have 600 families involved with us, and they're all on spring break right now. They're not here. And their moms and dads have traveled with us to Israel and now participate in huge, extensive follow-up programs. I think something like 300 women are learning with us on a monthly basis. The men have built a brotherhood, the women a sisterhood that unites them across the varied landscape of Los Angeles. They represent 60 shuls, schools, and other organizations. And the impact on the children is now becoming palpable.
If you didn't get it growing up, who is supposed to teach you about how to connect your kids to Judaism?
The Jewish Women's Initiative is the moms division of Aish Los Angeles. Our mission is to empower moms to bring the beauty, joy, and relevance of Judaism to their families through classes, seminars, and one-on-one learning.
The Jewish Man's Initiative at Aish LA is a growing brotherhood of more than 150 men that have come together to unlock their full potential of what it means to be a Jewish man in today's world. Through transformational trips, inspiring classes, and energizing events, the members of the JMI are able to deepen their connection to Hashem, to Torah, to their wives, and to their children while building lifelong friendships in the process.
JWI fuels my passion to learn, fuels my passion to grow, it fuels my passion to be a better wife.
Getting the tools that I need to connect my kids to Judaism. We are talking a lot more about values and character and God.
If I had to sum up JMI in one word, I would say it's transformative.
JWI is the only program in LA to invest specifically in moms, the power source of the Jewish home.
I could tell you all about the incredible growth and meaning that JMI and JWI has had for people like me and others, but I think it would be more powerful to hear it from our children.
My mom and my dad moved me to a new school called Heschel, and I really like learning about the Jewish religion. It's so much fun learning about new stuff in Hebrew.
I was lucky enough to have my bar mitzvah at the Kotel, and now we both attend Jewish high schools.
My mom is teaching me what it means to step up and lead the Jewish community.
We observe Shabbat more often in our home. My mom always makes sure that everybody's included.
It's something that I wish we had been doing for many years, and I look forward to doing for the rest of my life.
My mom makes challah, my dad and I do kiddush, and my sister and mom light the candles.
I think that it's good to connect to our religion.
I feel more of a connection to Israel.
She is learning wonderful stuff from Israel.
She really found her inner peace.
Now, while the JMI and JWI activities are located primarily in the Valley, we are fortunate to have a strong presence here in the city as well, both in terms of educational programming and in bricks and mortar. 18 years ago, we completed the Buxbaum Family Aish Outreach Center located at Pico Boulevard and Doheny Drive, which I consider at least to be ground zero of the Jewish world in the West Side. Almost immediately we outgrew that space though. And 8 years later, we expanded by opening up a storefront 5 doors down, which has become Maury's Fireplace. The most iconoclastic, popular Jewish space in Los Angeles. Maury's created a paradigm shift in the world of Jewish outreach. Over the past 10 years, we've had over 4,000 events at Maury's, and over 150,000 people have passed through its doors. And I'm excited to... And I'm excited tonight to announce, with the help of a generous lead gift from Ezra and Lauren Kest, as well as another 30 generous supporters who I think we put their names down on the tables, we have opened up escrow to purchase Maury's. We've been renting it for 10 years, and we've paid a lot of rent. We could have had an NBA basketball player on salary for that amount of money. We have raised close to the $900,000 we had to raise, and we've done that in the last 6 months. We're only $20,000 short, but we opened up escrow anyways because we're a Jewish organization. And if you want to make my day, there are still some very exciting dedication opportunities available. And I invite all you to enjoy, to join us in this incredible experience, this milestone. The dedication board at Maury's on the brick wall will be a historical testament to Aish Alei's ever-dynamic vision. I'd like to take us back to 1981. Aish Alei was founded by 2 rabbinical families, Erwin and Judy Katzoff, and also here in our midst, Rabbi Nachum and Rebbetzin Amuna Braverman. And a small group of visionaries, including also here tonight, Dick and Beverly Horowitz, and Leonard and Joyce Wilstein. They invested in an idea that has now become the Aish Alei of today. And through the years, our base of support, thank God, has expanded, and we've nurtured it with our executive learning program. Our partners learn one-on-one and in group settings. Some groups are led by Rabbi Daniel Grama, others by Ron Jawari, and we also have other women leading women's groups. I can't name everybody, but I'd like to say if you would like to get that personalized schedule and to cover and to discuss in Judaism what you would like, then please come and see me. We start groups, we start individual learning. That's what we do. And finally, that brings me to my Aish. It's directed by Rabbi Yitz Jacobs and Dalia Partouche. Now, my Aish focuses on mature young professionals that don't drink too much and who are beginning new businesses and looking to meet and marry and start the next generation of families here in Los Angeles. With wide-ranging trips from San Diego, Spain, Brazil, Poland, and of course Israel, they attract massive gatherings and standing room only events. We, Aish Alei, originated the young professional niche in Los Angeles, and we still remain and continue to be a leader in this demographic.
My Aish is an organization that brings together Jews of all walks of life.
It's a very welcoming and warm community of young Jewish professionals who encourage you to grow and be your best self.
The programming is incredible, the lectures, the trips.
You can have food, drinks, you come to a great event. You can do literally anything you want, and you're surrounded by happy, friendly, like-minded people.
Rabbi Jay is a big brother for me, and he's had such an incredible impact on my life.
Rabbi Jay and Dahlia are family to me. I can go to them for anything.
They taught me about the beauty of Judaism and how to connect to it and tap into that energy.
The Judaism that I experienced at Aish is a complete 180 from everything else I had experienced before.
There's no judgment when you walk into my Aish. Everyone is really friendly and welcoming.
My Aish is a place where you can eat, drink, dance, and be happy, connect to Hashem, connect to yourself, and probably meet your wife.
Personally, what I've gained from my Aish is a husband and 2 beautiful kids.
If you come to Aish, you might get lucky like her, hit the jackpot, and marry a guy like me.
I feel that over the last 10 years, my Aish has played an integral role in all aspects of my life, from my relationships with my family and friends to business and just being a Jew.
I am so lucky to be a part of this community, and I want to say thank you. Thank you so much, my Aish. You've changed my life.
Please welcome the Director of Aish Los Angeles Young Professional Division, Rabbi Yitz Jacob.
Good evening, everyone. In the 15 years that I've worked for Aish Los Angeles, it is unbelievable what we have all built together. And I mean together, because without help, there's no way that we can have the massive impact that we have on LA every single year. This togetherness, this partnership is so instrumental. And it's really what makes the difference. And every so often, someone comes around that is exceptional. An extraordinary person, an extraordinary leader, an extraordinary friend. A person with a huge heart, with so much to give, who wants to share and wants to make a difference. I'm here tonight to recognize and to honor one of those people. That person's name is Eddie Cahen. Eddie started off as a participant in our program and our trips. He then came back as our trip leader, energy, with unbelievable amounts of energy and enthusiasm and leadership. And then he became an innovator and a driving force in the incredibly successful program founded by Dahlia Partouche, the Power Up Men's Division. Eddie really took the reins. He had a vision how to make it even better, and Eddie took it off the map. Eddie has given his love, his time, his passion, his vision, and his energy to our organization and to the thousands of lives that we touch each year. I can't tell you how proud and how honored I am right now to be presenting this award to Eddie Cahen. Eddie, we love you. We bless you with so much success and happiness in your life. And we also bless you that you should continue to be a light, you continue to be able to give, you continue to be able to share, and continue to lead all the people to a much incredibly happier and better place. So without any further ado, it takes me incredible amount of pride to welcome up to the stage to receive the My Aish Young Professional Leadership Award to Eddie Cahen.
שמעתי שעושים פה מסיבה בלעדיי, אף אחד לא עושה את זה יותר טוב ממני. היי, נשים את הצרות מאחוריי, אני לא הולך עד שכולכם מג'נונים. היי, שמעתי שהתחלתם בלעדיי, אף אחד לא עושה את זה יותר טוב ממני. היי, הראש כבר מסתובב כולם בהיי. תנגשנו מי להיט, תרימו לי להיט, תרימו לב עולה, הקצב כאן עולה מהפכה של שמחה.
Thank you. I'm truly honored. My journey with Aish began about 9 years ago. I had just completed another difficult semester of architecture school, probably the most difficult, and so I decided to spend my winter break on the 2010-2011 Aish Winter Israel trip. I returned from the trip with a lot of questions answered, a group of new friends, and a stunning realization that Aish would be the bridge that would fill in the gap between my two worlds, my secular world and my religious world. I discovered a Jewish organization that catered to young professionals regardless of where they fell in the spectrum of observance. From weekly lectures, fun events, trips and Shabbatones, to user-friendly services where we could actually understand what was going on during the high holidays. Aish provided it all. I joined the board and I found an opportunity to serve myself, the community, and Hashem, all at the same time. What kind of Persian boy would I be if I didn't come up with such a killer deal? As I helped plan events with the board, I gained a greater satisfaction in seeing my ideas come to fruition. As my involvement grew, my organization and delegation grew as well. All of these skills directly translated into my business. My friends began to attend more events, and they slowly clicked with the friends that I had made at Aish. I witnessed my two worlds merging, and then I saw the real potential. My relationships with Rabbi Jacobs and Dahlia were a key factor in all of this, as they empowered me to do more and provided me with the support I needed. My involvement in Aish has helped me tremendously in my personal and professional life, and for that, I'm forever grateful. With that said, there's a much bigger issue we are facing. Our fellow Jewish brothers and sisters are getting washed away in assimilation and intermarriage at an alarming rate. I truly feel as though it is collectively our responsibility to save the generation. In the troubled waters of 2019, Aish is an anchor that keeps us from drifting away and simultaneously a guiding light that brings us closer to where we need to be. Aish has a proven formula that gives our community what we so desperately need. It provides a safe and welcoming environment that makes it cool to be a Jew. The role and impact of Aish is absolutely crucial to our survival as the Jewish people. It is our responsibility, not only for ourselves, but also for each other, to do our part in saving the ship. I commend all of you here today for being involved and being proactive in our mission of Tikkun Olam. I bless us that we should see our generation continue to grow with peace, unity, and in safety. I'd like to thank my family and friends for always supporting me, and I'd like to thank Rabbi and Rebbitzin Jacobs and Daniel and Dahlia Partouche for their selfless dedication to my Aish. Without them, none of this would be possible. And of course, I want to give a very special thank you to Hashem, because as the founder of Aish Torah, Rabbi Noach Weinberg, once said, there is nothing we can't accomplish without Hashem's help.
I just want to take a moment to recognize another founder and the namesake of the Buxenbaum family, Aish Outreach Center, Carlene Buxenbaum.
The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been raging for decades, with both sides accusing each other of being the prime problem. But no accusation has stuck more readily as being at the core of the conflict as the Israeli occupation and supposed total control of the West Bank, including Israel's stealing of Palestinian dignity on a daily basis. So I decided to go to the Palestinian territory to find out what is really going on.
גם מאחלים לו את האסון, אבל הוא שומר על הפאסון, לא מתעסק עם קטנים או טיילון. בוא נרגיע את הטון.
This sign was the first thing we saw before entering the West Bank. I have to admit, it made me a bit uneasy.
Oh man.
We met up with the rest of our crew across the border. We had a Palestinian driver/bodyguard, a plugged-in local who knew the lay of the land. We also hired a local sound guy who showed up without any equipment, but did have a phone with a clearly unlimited texting plan. One of the main accusations against Israel is that they've installed a countless amount of checkpoints across the West Bank that disrupt Palestinian daily life and make it difficult to travel between Palestinian cities. In order to better investigate the truth of these claims, we took a drive. A long drive. We drove hundreds of miles throughout the West Bank in a Palestinian car with a Palestinian driver. We were never stopped. Where there are checkpoints is when one enters Israel from the Palestinian territories, which were put up after a rash of terrorism. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians use these points of entry into Israel in order to get to their jobs. The accusation here is that Israel takes away Palestinian dignity by deliberately making life hard for Palestinians when entering Israel. So I decided to go to the Kalandia checkpoint, the major point of crossing into Jerusalem, and ask Palestinians how long it takes them to cross over into Israel.
כשאתה עובר מפה לשם, כמה זמן זה לוקח? בדרך.
يعني قديش بياخد وقت؟
10 דקות.
10 דקות.
10 דקות.
10 דקות. 10 דקות.
כן, and to come back, לחזור גם...
יש טראפיק, עובר חצי שעה.
שזה תור שלך, כן. ואתה עובר משם לפה. דקה. דקה אחת.
דקה אחת. בדיוק דקה אחת.
בדיוק דקה אחת.
דקה אחת. גומר אני אצל החיירת,
כן.
תבדוק את התעודה או אישור, רק דקה.
הולך עם החיילים, הם עושים בעיות בשבילך או בדרך כלל לא?
בשבילי לא עושים בעיות.
During filming at the Kalandia checkpoint, the crossing came under assault by slingshot-wielding attackers, flinging fist-sized rocks that exploded around us and slammed into the Palestinian cars and pedestrians in line to cross into Israel. The attackers were on hillsides overlooking the checkpoint in a coordinated assault that was apparently not uncommon. The border guards reacted to try to protect the Palestinian civilians from the attack and continued to keep the checkpoint open in order not to create greater hardship for those trying to enter into Israel. With chaos breaking out around us, the attackers amped up the violence by starting fires in the surrounding town of Kalandia. The smoke and heat were intense. At one point, a Palestinian child was hit by a rock, fracturing his leg.
Hey, a-holes! You hit a little kid! Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome filmmaker, journalist, and political satirist, Mr. Ami Horowitz.
It's a real pleasure being here. It's an honor and it's a privilege, and I wanted to thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Azriel Aaron and Aryeh Markman for the invitation. Thank you. I think they deserve a round of applause, please. The wonderful work they've done here. You know, Aryeh and Oz are real sticklers. I don't know if you guys know this about the timing of this thing. They want to make sure you guys are out of here. This thing is kept on track. So when I asked them, I said, you know, what do you guys want me to speak about? They said, 5 minutes. You know, Aish also doesn't have the traditional kind of, you know, keeping of time for a speaker. Oftentimes there'll be like a green light, red light. There might be even some music that plays you off. Here, there's 2 snipers on either side. And in case I go over, they'll take care of it. Look, I wish I could be here and address you and talk about something uplifting. Unfortunately, I can't do that for you. We're going to be talking about the rise of anti-Semitism around the world, and here in this country in particular. And I think you are familiar that there is a trend, really a horrible, horrific trend happening around the world and in the United States with this horrible scourge of anti-Semitism. And a statistic that I think you may or may not know is that over the last few years, there have been more attacks on Jews than against black people, gay people, or Muslim people per capita combined. And, oftentimes it's important to know, first of all, in terms of time frame, people have you think this is a new phenomenon. This has been going on for the last 2 years, right? Since the election of our president. And the reality is far from the truth. This is actually a decades-long trend. Over 10 years, we've seen this almost unprecedented rise year over year, double-digit rise every year in anti-Semitic attacks. And I think it's also important to note where the attacks are coming from. Now, there are the usual suspects, of course: radical Islam, white nationalists, neo-Nazis. These are people that I know well. I've literally sat across Hamas, Islamic Jihad. Just a couple months ago, I sat with the KKK. I know that this is where a lot of the anti-Semitism is spewing from. But the reality is, the real growth sector in this perverse business is from the radical left. And I think it's important to talk about that a little bit. I wasn't sure that was an applause line or not, but nonetheless. But we're seeing the scourge of anti-Semitism in, unfortunately, the halls of Congress, and even more troubling, in the halls of academia. Now, we're all used to the fact that the academic world has been very anti-Israel. This is not a new event. This has literally been going on for decades and decades. But what I have found is that this veneer of insulation that you see on college campuses that used to be, hey, we're not anti-Semitic, we're just anti-Israel, right? Okay, well, one can have a fair argument of what constitutes being anti-Semitic. I personally believe that if you're going to call out the state of Israel and not call out Iran, Sudan, North Korea, I'm pretty sure you're an anti-Semite. That's my definition. But what we're seeing is even that veneer has gone away, and we've seen our college campuses in particular really devolve into open anti-Semitism. I'll tell you one quick story about a video I just actually released a couple of days ago. I went to this major conference on the campus of University of North Carolina. It was a joint conference between Duke and UNC. And I can't overstate how big and important this conference was. This was a major conference with hundreds of attendees, students, administrators, professors. It was sponsored by every major department on both UNC's campus and Duke's campus, and more than that, it got a $250,000 grant from the US government. And what I found was, it was ostensibly a conference on Gaza. Okay, now what you expect when you go to a conference like that, it's going to be an anti-Israel hate fest. That was something I knew going in. That was, it's unfortunate, that was not surprising to me. And it was exactly that. It was a whitewash of Hamas, it was a whitewash of Hezbollah. It was very anti-Israel. But what I didn't expect was what I found. So I went around to see if what I was talking about, this kind of veneer of anti-Israel kind of is in fact being washed away. And first of all, the first thing I did was I asked a couple of very simple questions. The first question I asked, the most important question, was I asked, one of the most damaging anti-Semitic tropes that has ever existed, maybe second only to the blood libel, was, does Jewish money control governments, right? We can all agree it's if you answer yes, it's relatively anti-Semitic. I spoke to maybe 50 children, 50 kids, administrators, professors, and 2 of the 50 said no. And the other one said, of course they are. Of course Jews control the US government. Of course all US policy is because of Jewish money. This is what they told me. Now, even more troubling than that, the coup de grace of this was the highlight of the conference was, the entertainment for the conference was a Palestinian rapper named Tamar Nafer. Oddly enough, just before the conference, he had this glowing article in the New York Times about himself and the role that he's playing in the Palestinian world and the Israeli Arab world. He's an Israeli Arab, this guy. And he got on stage and began a rap. And this rap was dripping with anti-Semitism. In fact, he called it his anti-Semitic song. He got up there and was rapping proudly about being an anti-Semite, and at one point, the crowd was kind of rapping with him, the lyrics, the deranged lyrics from his song. And he looked at the crowd and says, "You guys are so beautifully anti-Semitic." And he got and received a standing ovation from the crowd. And as I looked to the side, I looked at the guy who was putting this conference together. The guy who invited Tamer, the guy who put this whole conference together, was of course a Jew who was standing there smiling during this entire deranged rap that this guy was doing. Which brings me to Sinat Chinam. If you guys know, Sinat Chinam is responsible for a lot of the worst things that ever happened to us. The destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, was because of hatred of one's brother, Sinat Chinam. You know, I don't know if you guys know, Pesach is upon us. 99% of all the Jews who were enslaved in Egypt decided after all the miracles that they witnessed God doing for the Jews, they did not leave Egypt. Would rather not follow their brothers into the wilderness and stayed instead as slaves in Egypt. My friends, the author of our destruction will not be Nebuchadnezzar or Paro. It'll be ourselves. We will do it to ourselves, chas v'shalom, if ever it comes to it. But here's a silver lining. There is a silver lining. I have never, because of this scourge of anti-Semitism, I have seen the Jewish community come together to act more as one than ever before. And that I hope that this will continue to be the case, both organizations like Aish, that keep the fire going of Jewish integration, Jewish participation. This is a battle, my friends, that we will win and we will be victorious. Thank you very much for your time.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Mr. Richard Sandler.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I asked Ami where he wanted to sit. He goes, "You sit on the left, I'll sit on the right." So,
read nothing into that.
Ami, first of all, tell us, how did you start doing this? How did you start doing this work, putting yourself at risk, and really getting out there the way you do?
So I used to be an investment banker, and like all investment bankers, I made the move into filmmaking. The collapse of Lehman Brothers kind of helped me along with that, actually. But one day I was actually sitting as a Saturday night, I remember it very clearly, and I was watching Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine. I had seen it before, and I was kind of drifting off, and oddly enough, I was thinking about the United Nations. You know, oftentimes, I'll sit and think about the United Nations, like we all do. And I thought, man, this is an organization that was built to help create a better world for us. Yet, you know, in that period of time, we've seen Rwanda, Sudan, yet they didn't really do anything. So I thought, I want to do something, and I want to stand on the rooftops and shout this out. And I was thinking to myself, well, my kids don't care what I have to say. Who else is going to care what I have to say? But I looked over the screen and I saw this kind of edgy, entertaining, darkly comic medium that Michael Moore kind of almost created. And I thought, this is kind of what I want to do. I made a movie about the UN, and it's been off to the races since then.
Well, I know on behalf of everybody here, we thank you for the risk you take to tell the truth and to expose what's really going on.
Thank you.
But, you know, that being said, we have a lot of issues in our community today, as you've pointed to. And it's not just those Jews that are siding against us, though that is a serious problem. But we have a lot of young people who care. They care about their Judaism, they care about their tradition. I've talked to a number of them who spend a lot of time in Israel and spend a lot of time in the Palestinian territories. And they'll tell me that they can make a film, and they can interview people who will say, I couldn't go to my cousin's wedding because I couldn't get from here to there. And after such and such happened, I wasn't treated that well. And I mean, the fact is that if you're a young person living in those territories, you don't have the rights as you do if you are a young person living in Israel. Now, we know the reason why that, but how do we have that conversation with our young people who actually care?
You know, it's a great question, and I think truth matters, obviously. And there's never two sides to a truth. There's usually one side of the truth and another side to a truth. Now, the person who would make that comment about how I didn't get to my cousin's wedding, I would say if you were saying that you were trying to get from Bethlehem to Jenin to your cousin's wedding and it took you hours and hours, I would say you're a liar. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality. There are no checkpoints. As the video showed, that will stop somebody from getting from one place to another place within the territories. Now, if you're saying I'm trying to get to my cousin's wedding in Lod, in Israel, I would say, okay, there may be some truth to that. If you're going in rush hour, it may take a little bit longer. But this notion that it takes somebody hours and it's demeaning and you've got a strip search, and most of that is just false. But the reason why we have checkpoints at all are because we couldn't stop the terrorism that was coming across from the Palestinian territories onto Israel. But I would say beyond that, of course, we have to begin to speak to each other in a real way and in an honest way, and that's the only way we're going to solve this problem.
There was a time when I was growing up when this was not an issue. Israel was David. The Arab neighbors were Goliath. Anybody under the age of probably 55 or 60-year-old today has no recollection of Israel other than as a powerful, strong country. And it is now Goliath, and the Palestinians are David. And how do we change the conversation so we can talk about that which unites us and which is important in our community, and not have the debate about whether in an occupied area who's at fault, who's not at fault, because that's what's tearing us apart in our conversations with most of our young people.
Yeah, so the analogy of David versus Goliath is, of course, an interesting one and not necessarily inappropriate, except that I would say that, yes, while the Palestinians may be regarded as David, they have a whole bunch of Goliaths behind them, whether it be the Arab League, the UN, or the European Union. So I think it's fair to point out kind of the power dynamic is not so as imbalanced as one might make it out to be. But further than that, of course, listen, of course we have to have serious conversations about serious things. The question is, who are we having that conversation with? I would argue, we can't have it with ourselves, it does us no good. We can have it all day with our American, European friends, but ultimately that's not going to make much of a difference. It has to be with the Palestinians themselves. I think once they come to realize that they have no choice but to actually involve themselves in a real, meaningful dialogue, I think they're going to find a willing partner. I think if you look across the last couple of decades, we have seen that Israel has taken great risk to give up land and territory for peace. They did so with Egypt and the Sinai. They did so in Gaza. They did so in the security zone with Lebanon. Israel has shown time and again they are more than willing to make territorial compromise if they have partners. Some would argue some of them were mistakes. I'm not sure there is a whole lot of peace on the northern border necessarily, or we do have so forth. We don't have with Gaza. Certainly there isn't any. But I think that if there is a partner to talk to, I think the Palestinians will find Israel is a more than willing participant to engage in that conversation.
Let's switch our focus a little bit, because I know you also spend a lot of time on college campuses. Let us know we always read in the newspapers what's happening or supposedly happening on the campuses. But what is the biggest problem you see for Jewish students on campus today? And what do you see that's happening on campuses that are positive with respect to our kids?
Let me answer the second question first on what's positive. Okay, so let's move to the negative part. Look, most of us here are products of universities in this country. It's the driving force of our economy, no question about it. But I find that it has turned in a direction that I see as almost wholly negative. There are no safe spaces for Jews and pro-Israel activists on campus. I find that the problems are becoming more and more acute as time goes on. As you know, I spend a lot of time on campuses, and every time I do a video, I raise money for Hamas on campus for Pete's sake, right? I mean, every time I do a video on campus, I think to myself, okay, there's no way this is going to work. There's no way they're going to buy it, and they do. And so I become more and more pessimistic about what's happening on our college campuses, although I do find the example I gave you guys with Duke and UNC, that horrible example of open anti-Semitism. So what happened there? And the key to success on campuses is money, right? Sorry, money makes the world go around. And I had a conference call with major Duke donors who said, I'm no longer going to be donating to Duke. Guess what? 6 hours later, or less than that, Duke and UNC came out with joint press release saying, oh, we're horrified what happened on our campus, even though they didn't refuse to even acknowledge it for over 24 hours. So I think that if we, using the power of the purse, we could help change the situation on campus. I hope we do that. But without that, we're not going to see any change, I don't think.
So what's your next project?
I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. No. I actually...
It's been a rough week, so don't tell me.
So my next, I have two projects that will be releasing soon. One is about the policy in the Palestinian Authority that executes any Palestinian who sells land to Jews. I did a kind of undercover expose of that. And the second one is on the problems that we've seen with the Muslim Brotherhood around the world, where I traveled to Beirut, to Istanbul, the United States, interviewing Muslim Brotherhood leaders, where they kind of lay out what they'd like to see happen. Spoiler alert, it's not good.
So how do you get your product in front of the right audience? I mean, showing it here is important, but most people here already understand.
While preaching the choir, by the way, is important. The choir needs to know what the tune is and what the song, we read from the same songbook. I do agree it's important to change people's minds. So we have the usual YouTube and Facebook, and thank God our videos average over 5 million views per video. The important statistic, though, the more important than that number, is that of that 5 million, a full third are considered not conservative, either politically unaffiliated or liberal. So we are, in fact, getting into a wider audience, and an audience that needs to hear that story. So I'm happy and I'm very proud of that.
So you and I right now are all that stands between this group of people and the dessert buffet.
I say we get off stage
and
as soon as
Oz
possible.
is basically giving me like, we're not going to be able to hold them off much. So let me wish you well, be safe, and may you go from strength to strength.
Thank you very much.
Please welcome the editor-in-chief of the Los Angeles Jewish Journal, Mr. David Suissa.
Okay, welcome to the Sephardic Hour. They told me 5, I'm going to go 30. So a few months ago, one of the reporters of the Jewish Journal came into my office and asked me, "Why are you so Jewish?" Never mind that it's on our masthead. So I really challenged myself to give him a good answer, beyond just the cliches of it adds meaning to my life and all that good stuff. So I said, imagine that you and I were buddies in the year 70, right after the destruction of the Second Temple. Your family goes to Babylon, and my family goes towards Jerusalem. And, I make a joke, and I tell you, I'll see you in 1900 years, right? So lo and behold, 1900 years later, actually 1849, I bump into you on Fairfax. And I said, have you been? So we talk, we schmooze. You invite me to your synagogue the next day, and I go into your synagogue, and then I invite you to my synagogue the week after, and we both realize that in those 19 centuries, we're still reading from the same book. How is that possible? That we can be separated for 19 centuries all over the world, not see each other. My grandparents in Morocco and my ancestors going way back, I'm sure none of them ever met an Ashkenazi Jew. All I do is meet Ashkenazi Jews. There might be 100 different types of Jews on Pico. And that's what I told them. So I said, for me, I see 100 Bubbies and 100 Zadis in this large field, and they're all holding hands from the destruction of the temple to now. In my case, they all have one eyebrow. And I'm looking at them. And they're kind of looking at me. And I ask myself, who am I, this little pisher? I'm going to be the one to break the chain? Not a chance. Not me. So they were able to hold on for 1900 years through pogroms and inquisitions and no air conditioning. And then I got to come in and break it. So I'm not going to break it. So that's what I'm telling this reporter at the Jewish Journal. Anyways, he just walked out of my office. I think I freaked him out a little bit. But one day, one of my daughters was a little bit embarrassed. She said, you know, Dad, I'm having my doubts about God. She put me on the spot. So, of course, my back was against the wall. And I said, oh, Shani, that's really very Jewish of you. She said, really? Yeah, because, you know, we like to challenge things. But I said, you might have doubts about God. You might have doubts about some of the stories in the Bible. But let me give you something that there's no doubt about, right? This Kiddush we just made Friday night, 1,000 years ago, in some little village in Morocco, they made the same Kiddush. So I said, you don't even need a leap of faith for that. And that's what I call the goosebumps. So for me, my Jewish identity is all wrapped up around the goosebumps. When I think that we were the people of the book for 19 centuries, and then a few years later, we get attacked by 5 armies, and we got to transform ourselves into the people of the arms so we can fight them back, how is that not a miracle? I was on a panel recently in USC. And I think I was the only, non-leftist. There were hundreds of leftists. I was awash in a sea of leftists. I had, if not now, J Street, you name it. They were all surrounding me. I felt very lonely, but happy. I really was happy. And all I did was give them good news. All I did was remind them that this BDS movement that has spent tens of millions of dollars and tens of millions of hours, it's not even a scratch on Israel. Israel's never been this successful. I declared victory on them. Because the last thing I wanted to do was to give them the pleasure of me acting like a victim. Jews don't do pathetic pity party victims very well, right? So when I hear all the bad news from today, it's true. There's lots of bad news. But I'm here to give you the silver lining playbook. And one of them is the haters, they get hurt a lot more than those they hate. All those people for 70 years, the 400 million Arabs and Muslims in the neighborhood of Israel that have been taught since the birth of Israel to hate, to have contempt for the Jews and for Israel, who has that hatred hurt? It's hurt the haters. And even here in America, what is it about the Jews that they hate? One of the things they hate is we're not very popular right now at a time in America when the real heroes are victims. We don't play the victim Olympics very well. At a time when the heroes are the weak and the powerless, we happen to be strong, powerful, and successful. At a time when that's not very popular. So it's like the world went to Israel and said, you know, if you didn't have these amazing bomb shelters and these iron domes and stuff, if you weren't that good at defending yourself, and maybe, God forbid, a few hundred more of you would die when those bombs fall in, we'd love you more. And the Israeli society has given them the middle finger. They've said, no deal. If that's what it takes for you to love us. And if that's what it's going to take to get rid of anti-Semitism in America, for us to turn into pathetic victims, no deal. No deal. So in so many ways, we're winning. And this organization that we're celebrating tonight, they don't do calling out. What do? They do pro-Semitism. That's what they do. They do pro-Semitism. They give you the goosebumps. You look on their website, Ignite Jewish Passion, right? The founder of Aish. There's a house burning, and we have to take care of it. There's a sense of urgency. So this idea of not how we died, but how we live is what Aish does. They're the promoters of pro-Semitism. I have a long history with Aish. Don't ask. Big, long history. I started, I think, 20 years ago. And one of the rabbis, Nachum Braverman, would come and give classes in my office. And one of them, I never forgot this class. I think I've repeated this to friends of mine many, many times. And at the end of the class, he gave the teaching was that you don't give to someone because you love them. You love them because you give to them. What Aish does is it helps Jews give to Judaism. And the more you give to Judaism, the more you love Judaism, right? There's a line on their website that says, looking at the world from a Jewish perspective. The threat today is that it's doing the opposite. You look at Judaism, and then you make it universal. And when you make it universal, and if you've been told that recycling and saving the whales is Judaism, then why do I need to do Shabbat? If that's the case. So Aish tells you, look at the world from a Jewish perspective. They don't apologize for what they do. You know, when I started my gig as editor-in-chief a year and a half ago, I had a choice. And in fact, it was my first column. And I wrote to my readers, 80% of whom are on the left, 90% of whom probably don't do Shabbat. I would imagine 95% of them won't even build a sukkah on Sukkot. I know my readers. And I said, I got a choice. I could either be a mirror or I can either be a window. If I'm a mirror, I'm going to give you back the Judaism you already do. But if I'm a window, I'm going to give you the Judaism that I was raised with. I'm going to give you Torah Judaism. So I said, I'm not going to patronize you and give you a mirror. I think you can handle the window. So I've been giving him the window. Do I get complaints? I don't think so. Because, you know, I wasn't raised with the Holocaust. I wasn't raised with trauma. In Morocco, it was the Judaism of the sun. So this pro-Semitism, it just comes naturally for me. But what's Aish's excuse? Aish was started by Ashkenazim, and many of them were probably traumatized by the Holocaust. And this trauma has created in America this kind of gray kind of Judaism where we're always watching our backs. And we give hundreds of millions to organizations that fight anti-Semitism. It's a gray Judaism of the winter. And Aish has come in as an Ashkenazi organization and given us Sephardic Judaism. They do pro-Semitism. I'm ready to announce to you, Rabbi Markman, you're a Sephardic organization. Because all you do is build pro-Semitism. You're alive with the fire of Judaism. And on that note, I have a little surprise for you, because I'm sure some of you may have noticed that we did not do the Atikva. But there was a reason for that, because we saved the best for last. So I'm going to invite Kiev Morales, in the spirit of the hope that Aish creates every day by igniting Jewish passion. I'm inviting the amazing violinist to play the Atikva. Let's all stand up and let's all sing it. Kiev Morales. Give Morales. Hey. On that note of goosebumps, dinner is served. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed the show. Please enjoy your meal and have a wonderful night. Thank you for coming.